Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. Are India's test cricketers chokers with both bat and ball in close games? Are they comfortable only winning easy games with a cushion and with big margins? Let us take a historical dive and we will soon find out. Dialing back to 1969 when Bill Lawry's Australian team toured India in the third test match at Delhi, India had to score 180 odd runs in the fourth innings to win the game on a turning track, and Australia was bundled out for 107 in their second innings. And India lost the first two wickets only for 18 runs. And Vishwanath, young Vishwanath, 20-year-old, playing only his second test match, having scored a century on debut at Kanpur, along with Ajit Wadekar, added 100 plus runs for the next weekend and won the game for India. So what you saw here was a young man who not just was classy to watch and won with terrific technique, but was mentally very, very tough in a big spot. Then going to 1971, the same Vishwanath, when India won its first test match and first series at the Oval against a very strong England bowling side, which included John Snow, John Price, Derek Underwood, and Ray Illingworth, and took India home and was there until the last over to win that game for India. So this is how mentally tough players win games, and India was lucky to have Vishwanath in those days. Of course, they also had Sunil Gavaskar, Ignace Solkar, who were both mentally very, very tough. Then, of course, in 1976 at Port of Spain, in that historic run chase of 400 plus, when India had to score 404 runs to win that game, and India were given a good platform by the openers, and Gavaskar having scored a century, and Vishwanath scored 112 runs with 15 boundaries and basically toyed with the bowlers. And at the last ditch effort, when Clive Lloyd brought Michael Holding back into the attack with the new ball, bowling at 97, 98 miles per hour easily, Vishwanath just took him out of the attack. And India won that game thanks to a combined effort, but I thought Vishwanath's innings was very crucial in taking India home. So here you have a player who was not just graceful to watch, but was mentally very, very strong. And in the clutch, he always delivered. And after this, India had a bad phase in the late 1970s when, if you remember, on India's tour to Australia in 1977 against a B-grade Australian team. I thought the batting was B-grade, but the bowling was of international standards, led by the fast and furious Jeff Thompson. India lost that series 2-3, and Australia won those three games, the first at Brisbane by 14 runs, the second at Perth by 2 wickets, and the last at Adelaide by 40 odd runs. And India won their two games at Melbourne by 222 runs and at Sydney by 1 innings and 2 runs. As you can see, in close games, India could not win, and there was a problem. Apart from Gavaskar and Vishwanath, some of the other batsmen, once these two were out, did not know how to close games. And this was a problem which India continued to have for a good 5 to 6 years. And if you remember, after this series, India went to Pakistan, and in the 1978 Test match at Karachi, Pakistan had to score 170 plus runs in 20 odd overs. And I was really surprised that Bishan Singh Bedi, with total lack of captaincy, I would say, just gifted that game away. He could have easily slowed the game by asking for drinks, by changing the ball, by making field placements, but he did neither. And he basically gifted the game away. Pakistani patriotic umpires notwithstanding, India should have saved that game. And then comes Oval 1979, which is the most difficult game for a lot of us Indian cricket fans to really absorb and understand. Again, India had to score 438 runs to win that game on the fourth innings, and Sunil Gavaskar played one of the greatest fourth innings double century, or for that matter, any innings in the fourth innings of 221. And the surprising part was when the second wicket fell sometime in the 350s or 60s, for some weird reason, Srinivas Venkataraghvan, India's captain, promoted a 19-year-old Kapil Dev as a pinch hitter ahead of the great Gundappa Vishwanath, who was easily India's most clutch player. and India had to only score 4 runs and over. I would understand if India had to score 6 and 7 runs and over and you promote Kapil Dev, but India had to score only 4 runs and over, and Kapil Dev could not deliver, and then India lost the match again, thanks to Mike Braley, who took a bump catch of Vishwanath when he was batting very well at 15, and it was a bad decision, obviously, but India should have won that game. A draw was not an option, and I can tell you, the English players had to basically thank El Presidente, Captain Srinivas Venkataraghavan, for letting them off the hook and give them a captain's pardon, and this whole team got out of jail. I could not understand how that match was not won by India. Again, uh, well, choke, yes, you can say choke, because after Gavaskar and Vishwanath were gone, rest of the guys choked and they couldn't deliver. So after this bad phase came the 80s, when you had mentally strong players like obviously like Gavaskar, Vishwanath, and then Kapil Dev, who had matured into a world-class all-rounder. In the test match at Melbourne, if you remember, India had to score, I'm sorry, Australia had to score 120 or 30 runs to win the game. And that game was on a difficult pitch with variable bounce. And thanks to a magnificent innings by Vishwanath in the first innings and a fighting knock of 70 runs, were out of, by Gavaskar, was out of form, but really played a fantastic innings of 70, which set the platform for India to win that game. And Kapil Dev, bowling in the fourth innings, came with a leg injury, having taken pain injections, and bowled non-stop at pace and took 5 for 38 and won a close game for India against Australia. So India could win close games. And then, of course, 1986 at Lord's again, it was Kapil Dev with his magnificent spell when he got 4 wickets in the Lord's Test match in the second innings. And then India was struggling to score 120 odd to win the game in the fourth innings. And in comes Kapil Dev, scores 23 with 4 boundaries and 1 6, and closed the game for India. So these were genuine closers. These were match-winning players who were mentally very tough. And then who can forget the tight test match at Chennai in 1986? Again, a terrific game where Alan Border had to be commended in asking India to score 348 runs on the last day. And India took that invitation, and Sunil Gavaskar scored a magnificent 90 and laid the platform. And Kapil Dev, obviously, in the first innings, just scored a brilliant 119 with almost a run a ball. And Ravi Shastri scored a magnificent 48 not out. One of his best innings, as far as I'm concerned. He showed tremendous poise. He was cool. There was ice in his blood vessels, and he helped India tie that famous test match. So you had players of that caliber, Gavaskar, Kapil Dev, Ravi Shastri. I think they were a pack. They were like a pack of wolves. You can't have a lone or two wolves get a big kill. You need a pack. You need a pack to win the big games. And India had that pack at the time. And then going forward, India obviously had terrific, tough players, mentally very tough. People like Dravid, Lakshman, Tendolkar, people like Harbhajan Singh, Zahir Khan, Anil Kumble, Saurav Ganguly, you can't forget him. And these guys were mentally tough. They won a lot of close games for India. Oh, of course, they also lost some games, but they won a lot. Now, coming to the present series against England, there is so much of grief amongst the Indian fans for having lost the 2 games they lost. Well, the first test match at Leeds, I think India's captain, Shubman Gill, playing in his very first test match as captain, you can't really blame the guy, was all over the place. This is some of the worst captaincy I've seen for a very long time. I don't understand on the fourth evening why on earth did he ask those tailenders to go for quick runs, and all of them threw their wickets away in order to get a couple of overs against the English openers. He could have put a target of 400 plus for the last day of the game in the fourth innings, and I can guarantee you, whether England played baseball, handball, or pickleball, there was no way they were getting those runs, and they would have actually lost that game, been trying to be defensive. So first test match, I think Shubman Gill's captaincy cost India the game. It was a tactical error. And the third test match at Lord's, You know something, guys? England won that game fair and square. Don't want to hear any excuses that India choked. India did not choke. England won that game fair and square, case closed. Now, going forward, I can't make a prediction. I just hope it is a good series and a competitive one. And we'll find out in the next couple of weeks what happens. Now, having gone through this information, I don't personally think India's test cricketers are chokers. What say you? This is Dr. Raj Desai signing off.